Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're looking into something that's, well, pretty out there. Have you heard about this Aqua Tower thing? It supposedly makes gallons of clean water just from the air.
Yeah, from thin air, supposedly. It's definitely caught some attention.
Right. We've got this promotional piece, very much a sales pitch. Got to be
Right.
upfront about that. But the idea itself, even if it's exaggerated, it's pretty fascinating.
For sure, it taps into some real anxieties people have. I mean, the drought situation is serious.
No kidding. And this author calls himself Richard Wilson. He paints a pretty bleak picture. Like Lake Mead and Powell, those reservoir levels are scary low.
Right, and the Colorado River, it's shrinking. And he even gets into the Ogallala aquifer, how that's drying up. Not just surface water, but the groundwater, too.
Yeah, he really lays it on thick. Even throws in stuff about, like, the Dust Bowl, how civilizations collapse because of drought. Heavy stuff.
Bit dramatic, sure. But the underlying problem is real. We've got data from NASA, USGS, confirming just how bad the drought is in many areas.
So, okay, drought's real. Got it. But is this Aqua Tower the miracle solution Wilson makes it out to be? He's claiming it's simple, just condensation, like an air conditioner.
And can make, what was it, 60 gallons of drinkable water a day. Sounds impressive, but also maybe too impressive.
Right. He even says you can build the thing yourself, like $200 worth of stuff from Home Depot. Almost too good to be true.
You gotta wonder, could something that basic really outperform those expensive commercial water generators? 60 gallons a day from a homemade device needs a closer look for sure.
Big time. Especially when he's also talking up how portable it is.
Yeah.
That it's off-grid, prepping for disaster, total water independence.
That self-sufficiency angle, it's very appealing for sure. Especially these days, climate change, uncertainty about resources, it plays into those fears.
Yeah. But there's something that kind of bugs me. He keeps mentioning this engineer friend, Jason Mitchell, who helped design it. But no credentials, no way to verify if this Jason even exists.
Yeah, right. Sounds a bit like trying to boost credibility without, actually backing it up. Lots of emotional language, personal stories, but skimpy on the technical details.
And then there's the whole pen name thing. Why not use your real name if you're so confident in this Aqua Tower?
Yeah, Richard Wilson makes it tough to track down any independent verification, right? So we've got a compelling story, a simple solution, and a whole bunch of question marks.
Exactly. Which is why we're here doing the deep dive. We want to figure out what's hype and what, if anything, actually holds water, so to speak.
Before we dissect the Aqua Tower claims, though, I think it's worth taking a step back, looking at the bigger picture of water solutions. There's so much cool technology out there.
Okay, yeah, let's zoom out a bit. What are some other approaches to water scarcity that you find, I don't know, interesting, promising?
Well, one area that's seen some real progress is desalination, taking the salt out of seawater. Traditionally, it's been super energy intensive, but newer tech is making it more efficient, less costly.
Especially in coastal areas. Makes
Yeah.
sense, right? You've got all this ocean water, got to figure out how to use it.
Right. Another fascinating area is biomimicry, basically looking to nature for ideas. There are creatures, like the Namib desert beetle, they pull moisture right out of the air.
No kidding, they can do that.
Yep, they've got these unique surface structures, and scientists are studying those, trying to copy them, develop new materials for water collection.
Wow, that's incredible. So even in the driest places, nature's figured it out. Makes you wonder what else we can learn from that.
Absolutely. And it's not all about high tech either. Rainwater harvesting, gray water recycling, simple stuff, but can make a big difference.
Yeah, true. Like capturing the water that runs off your roof when it rains. Totally doable.
Exactly. So you've got desalination, biomimicry, these simpler practices. And then you've got this Aqua Tower claiming to make water out of thin air. Pretty diverse set of possibilities.
It is. So how do we sort through all that? Figure out what's hype versus what's genuinely got potential.
Well, that's where critical thinking comes in. We got to go beyond the marketing, examine the science. Does it hold up? Is there proof? What are the downsides, the limitations?
He does keep saying how simple it is to build. Like an hour compares it to putting together IKEA furniture.
Makes you wonder, right? Can something that's straightforward really solve such a complex problem? That's a key question.
Yeah, big one. He mentions it uses condensation, like how an air conditioner drips water. That part seems plausible enough.
True, ACs do use condensation, but the amount of water they make is tiny. To get 60 gallons a day, you'd need massive surface area, huge fans, a seriously efficient cooling system.
That $200 price tag is definitely a selling point compared to commercial water generators. But is that a fair comparison, really?
Going to factor in the long term, right?
Oh.
Commercial ones might cost more upfront, but they're built to last. They're efficient. Warranties, customer support, parts. A DIY device, yeah, maybe cheaper at first, but what about repairs, maintenance down the line?
Then there's this story he tells about his uncle trying to steal his water during the drought. Pretty dramatic, trying to evoke that desperation.
Storytelling is powerful for sure, but we can't let those stories replace actual evidence. We need facts, not just anecdotes.
So we've got real drought worries, a story about self-sufficiency, and these bold claims about the Aqua Tower. Lots to unpack.
Definitely. And before we go any deeper, listeners, we've got a link in the episode description with more info on all this stuff. If you're as intrigued as we are, check it out.
Yes, definitely check that out. Okay, let's get back to those Aqua Tower claims. What are some specifics about the technology that stand out to you? Good or bad, whatever grabs your attention.
One thing that caught my eye, he says it makes purified drinking water, but doesn't really define that or what kind of filtering it uses. Water purification is complicated.
Purified is a pretty vague word. Like, what contaminants could this thing even remove?
Exactly. Atmospheric water generators, they're mostly for taking moisture out of the air, not filtering out pollutants. Dust, pollen, maybe some bacteria, sure, but that's not purification.
So to make it truly safe to drink, you'd need a whole separate filtration system, right? One that targets specific stuff, bacteria, viruses, heavy metals.
Right, a whole other layer of complexity he's not really addressing.
He's big on the off-grid thing, suggesting this is like the solution for anyone who wants to ditch their water supplier. But is that realistic?
It's tricky. Yeah, you could technically get water without relying on the city. But an atmospheric water generator needs power to run. And if you're truly off-grid, that means solar panels, wind turbines, generators.
More cost, more complexity. He
Exactly.
even talks about it being for emergency preparedness,
Yeah.
which, fair, extreme weathers is a real concern. But would you really want to bet your life on a DIY device in a crisis?
That's where things get dicey. Having backup water is always smart, but reliability is key. Commercial generators, they're tested, designed for tough conditions. A homemade one, who knows?
He goes so far as to say people can ditch their water suppliers altogether, achieve total water independence. Does that seem realistic? Could this one device really handle all your needs?
I think the idea of total water independence is often, well, romanticized. We use water for so much, not just drinking, right? Cooking, cleaning, even things like manufacturing the stuff we use. It's a lot to ask of one device.
So it's more about having a backup, being prepared for disruptions, not going totally off the grid.
A more pragmatic approach, yeah. Having multiple layers of like redundancy, being able to adapt.
He keeps using that phrase, slash your water bills, which is very appealing, obviously.
Yeah.
But is that realistic?
Depends on how much water you use now, the climate, how efficient the device is. Could it cut down on municipal water use? Maybe. But you've got the electricity cost to factor in.
He even mentions using his Aqua Tower to grow food, like it's a self-sufficiency thing. But wouldn't you need way more than 60 gallons a day to water a garden, especially if it's dry?
Yeah, good point. Growing food takes a ton of water. 60 gallons wouldn't go far unless you've got some super efficient irrigation system. Again, appealing to that desire for self-sufficiency, but oversimplifying the reality.
And then there's the claim that the water is 100% pure, even better than bottled water. But no real details about how it gets purified.
That's a big red flag for sure. Pure is a relative term, and there are standards for drinking water quality. We need to know how the Aqua Tower filters, what it removes, otherwise it's just a claim.
So we've got bold claims, not a lot of evidence, classic buyer beware situation.
Definitely. Be critical, especially when it comes to water. Don't be swayed by emotions or promises that seem too good to be true. Do your research, look for proof, ask tough questions.
Love that advice. Be informed, be empowered. Before we go too much further, just a reminder, listeners, we've got that link in the episode description. Tons of resources on water scarcity, these technologies, everything we're talking about.
Worth checking out if you want to dive deeper for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, let's get back to the Aqua Tower itself. What are some of the details about how it supposedly works that jump out at you?
Well, he keeps saying it operates on condensation principles, like an air conditioner. That part at least seems plausible.
Yeah, ACs do drip water, so that tracks. But to get 60 gallons a day? That seems, I don't know, unlikely.
Right. To scale that up, you'd need way more than just a basic condensation setup. Think about it. Huge surface area, powerful fans to move tons of air, some way to cool all that air down super efficiently.
The $200 price tag he keeps touting, it's tempting, for sure. But how does that even compare to, Like the cost of a real water purification system.
Yeah, you got to factor in the long game, right? A commercial purifier, yeah, pricier up front, but it's built to last. It's efficient. You get warranties, support, parts if something breaks.
Whereas a DIY thing, sure, maybe cheaper to start. But what about repairs? Replacement parts? All that adds up.
Exactly. It's like comparing apples and oranges. He's focusing on the initial costs, but not the whole picture.
He also throws in this anecdote about his neighbor trying to steal his water during a drought. Trying to ramp up the drama, play on those fears.
Ah, the power of storytelling. It's effective, for sure. But again, we can't let anecdotes replace actual data. We need evidence, not just emotionally charged stories.
So we've got legitimate concerns about drought, this narrative about self-sufficiency, and these big claims about the Aqua Tower. It's a lot to process.
Definitely a lot to unpack. Before we wrap up this part of the dive, I just want to remind our listeners that we have a link in the episode description with more information on all of these topics.
Yes, but please check that out if you're finding this as fascinating as we are.
It's definitely worth exploring further.
Absolutely. So, listeners, take a moment to check out that link, and we'll be right back with more on the Aqua Tower and the fascinating world of water solutions.
One thing that struck me about this whole pitch, it's how Wilson frames water scarcity as like a personal problem. And the Aqua Tower is the personal solution. But doesn't that kind of downplay the bigger systemic issues?
Yeah, you're saying it's not just about each person finding their own water source, right? There's more to it.
Exactly. Water scarcity, it's a huge interconnected mess. You've got climate change, population growth, how we do agriculture, all that crumbling infrastructure.
The political stuff too, right? Conflicts over water resources.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, individual actions matter, conserving water, all that. But we need systemic change too. Investing in infrastructure, policies that promote sustainable use.
He talks about how his Aqua Tower helped him through the drought, but no mention of, community efforts, water conservation programs, government aid. Very individualistic.
It is, right? Pushing that self-sufficiency angle hard. But we got to remember we're all connected, especially when it comes to something like water. Our actions affect each other.
He even throws out the phrase water wars, painting this picture of conflict over dwindling resources. Is that something we should actually be worried about?
Water wars might be a bit dramatic, sure, but the potential for conflict, it's real. As water gets scarcer, competition heats up, especially where multiple regions rely on the same source.
So not just hypothetical, it's already happening in some places.
It is, and history shows us how competing for resources can lead to tension, even violence. We got to be proactive, address scarcity through cooperation, diplomacy, sustainable management.
Makes you think about how we take water for granted until it's not there anymore.
Totally. We need a mindset shift from abundance to stewardship. Water's finite. We got to manage it wisely.
He brought up this concept of virtual water, which I found interesting. What's that all about?
It's basically the hidden water footprint of stuff we produce and use. Like to grow the coffee beans for your morning cup, that takes a lot of water.
Really? I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's all the water used to grow the beans, process them, transport them. So even if you're careful at home, your choices still affect water use globally.
Wow, that's wild. It's not just what we use directly, it's everything we consume.
Right. It shows how everything's connected, water use across different industries, global trade, understanding that virtual water helps us make smarter choices, support sustainable practices.
Going back to the Aqua Tower, he talks about having clean water while his neighbors were struggling. Again, kind of separating yourself from the problem, not being part of the solution.
It does come across that way, doesn't it? Like having access is great, but shouldn't it be about community? Working together. True resilience is collaborative.
He keeps saying anyone can build this thing, simple as a child's toy. But honestly, is it that easy? What skills would someone need to actually build this thing safely, effectively?
Putting together a basic structure, maybe not rocket science, but designing a system that extracts, purifies, stores water. You need to know about thermodynamics, fluid dynamics, material science.
And electrical wiring, right, to make sure it's safe.
Exactly. And even if you get it working, there's maintenance, upkeep, filters need replacing, the whole thing needs cleaning, inspections to prevent contamination.
He mentions using it to collect rainwater, too, which seems like a good idea. But wouldn't that need a whole separate system?
It would. Rainwater harvesting, that's usually about collecting runoff from your roof, storing it in tanks. Great way to supplement your supply, but it's separate from the atmospheric generator.
You could combine them, but it would be more complex, right?
For sure, you'd need careful planning, make sure both systems work together properly.
He's pretty harsh on traditional water sources. Tap water's full of chemicals. Bottled water's a scam. Is he being fair there?
Tap water, sure, it can have trace amounts of stuff. But those levels are regulated, monitored to be safe. In most developed countries, tap water is perfectly fine to drink. Bottled water. Convenient, maybe, but expensive, and creates tons of plastic waste.
So it's not so black and white. Different water sources, pros and cons to each.
Exactly. We got to be critical thinkers here. Weigh those factors, make informed choices based on evidence, not just fear-mongering.
He even goes so far as to say people can go off the grid entirely with this Aqua Tower.
Yeah.
Realistic goal or just more marketing hype?
Total self-sufficiency is a nice idea, but really hard to pull off. We depend on so many systems: water, food, energy. Being more self-reliant in some areas, sure, that's good, but gotta recognize we're also interdependent.
So more about finding that balance, self-reliance, and community resilience.
That's it. Recognizing we have individual agency, but also we're all connected. We need to work together for the big challenges.
He talks about how his Aqua Tower gives him peace of mind, knowing he's got control over his water. But could that be misleading? What if it breaks or the drought just drags on and on?
That's a great point. Relying on just one source, no matter how good it seems, is risky. You need backups, multiple layers of redundancy, maybe store some bottled water, have a rainwater collection plan, know where to find alternative sources in an emergency.
So it's not just the device, it's the whole plan, the preparedness mindset.
Exactly. Thinking about risks, having strategies to deal with them, backup options if things go wrong. Being proactive, not reactive.
He calls the Aqua Tower a game changer, the future of water. Is that realistic or is he just overselling it?
Gotta take those claims with a grain of salt, right? Atmospheric water generation has potential, for sure. But it's just one piece of the puzzle. No single technology is going to magically solve everything.
So no silver bullet.
Not for something this complex. We need a multi-pronged approach. Conservation, new tech, infrastructure, policy changes. It's a whole system.
He also throws in some warnings about, like, government control of water, appealing to that fear of losing freedom. Is there any truth to that, or is it just, I don't know, fear-mongering?
Governments do have a role in managing water, that's true. But there's a difference between responsible governance and, like, conspiracy theories. In most democracies, water policies are public, there's oversight, accountability.
So stay informed, participate in the process,
Yeah.
but don't just buy into the fear.
Exactly. Distrust without good reason, that's not helpful. It can actually hinder finding real solutions.
He positions the Aqua Tower as this way to fight back against those in control, almost like a revolution. Could that kind of rhetoric actually be harmful?
Powerful narrative for sure. But remember, water scarcity needs cooperation, not division. Us versus them, that just gets in the way of finding common ground.
He even talks about building it as a fun family project, appealing to parents who want their kids to learn about self-reliance, sustainability.
Yeah.
But is that a good idea? Having kids build something that could be dangerous?
Yeah, gotta be careful there. Getting kids involved in learning about water, conservation, that's great. But this device has electrical components, potentially hazardous materials.
So safety first.
Absolutely. Any project with kids, make sure it's age appropriate, adults are supervising, they know what they're doing.
He mentions using it for disaster preparedness, which is relevant these days with extreme weather.
Yeah.
But is a DIY device really reliable in a true emergency?
That's tough to say. It depends on how bad the situation is, what other resources are available, the condition of the device. Could it provide some water? Maybe. But you can't rely on it solely. Have backups, bottled water, a way to collect rainwater, know where to find public sources.
He even uses testimonials from people saying the Aqua Tower saved their lives during disasters. Seems a bit much, don't you think?
Gotta be cautious with those anecdotes, especially in marketing. Having water is vital in a crisis, sure. But saying a specific device is life-saving, that's misleading, creates unrealistic expectations.
So it's a piece of the preparedness puzzle, but not the whole picture.
Right. Survival depends on lots of things. Being prepared, luck, access to multiple resources. Don't oversimplify it.
He makes it sound like the Aqua Tower is the answer to everything, the cure-all for water problems. But could that be detrimental? Does it stop us from addressing the issue in a more, I don't know, holistic way?
That's a good point. Complex problems rarely have simple solutions. Saying one product is a magic fix, that can be dangerous. Leads to complacency, a false sense of security. We need to be willing to tackle the hard stuff, the systemic change.
He even has a whole section on his website about these spiritual benefits of having your own water supply. That's an interesting angle.
It is, isn't it? Speaks to how deeply connected we are to water. It's been seen as life-giving, purifying, spiritually significant for ages. So, yeah, I get why some people find meaning in having control over their water source.
It's almost like tapping into a primal instinct, self-preservation tied to a sense of well-being.
Powerful stuff. But remember, clean water should be a right, not a luxury for those who can afford a fancy device. We need to work towards a future where everyone has access.
He talks about how the Aqua Tower lets you connect with nature, live sustainably. Is that really what it's about, or is that just marketing spin?
Clever marketing for sure. Could it reduce reliance on city water? Maybe. But true sustainability is so much bigger than that. Reducing your overall impact, mindful consumption, supporting policies that promote renewable energy, sustainable agriculture.
It's the whole picture, not just one thing.
Exactly. Sustainability touches every aspect of our lives. Creating a world where both people and the planet thrive, that's the goal.
He compares it to other essential preparedness items, like food storage, first aid kits. Smart way to make it seem like a must-have.
Very smart. Putting it in the same category as things people already value makes it seem like a natural part of being prepared.
Like, if you've got food and bandages, you also need an Aqua Tower to be truly ready.
That's the message he's going for, making it seem essential. But again, preparedness is more than just supplies. It's the planning, the skills, the community connections, all of that.
He even claims it can be used to purify contaminated water sources, which is a big statement. We should probably unpack that.
Definitely. Atmospheric water generators, they're about taking moisture from the air, right? Purifying contaminated water, that's a whole different ballgame. Needs specific tech expertise.
So not just sticking any old water into the Aqua Tower and expecting it to be clean.
Not that simple. Purification's complicated, needs the right knowledge, equipment. Don't assume it can do something just because the marketing says so.
He says it can save you money on water bills, which is always a tempting promise, especially with costs going up all the time.
Gotta look at all the costs involved, right? The device itself, electricity to run it, maintenance, repairs. Maybe it saves on city water, but then you've got the energy bill to consider. And don't forget simple stuff like fixing leaks, using water-efficient appliances. That can save you money too, without buying anything new.
He even uses testimonials from people saying it improved their health, gave them more energy. That seems like a stretch.
Be wary of those kinds of claims. Clean water is vital for health, absolutely. But no proof that water from an atmospheric generator is magically better than regular water. Stick to credible sources for health info. Don't be swayed by marketing.
He also throws in the reduce your carbon footprint, eco-friendly lifestyle angle. Does that hold up?
It's tricky. Could it reduce reliance on city water systems, which use energy? Maybe. But what's powering the Aqua Tower? If it's fossil fuels, then it's actually contributing to emissions. To really reduce your footprint, you need renewable energy, plus a whole bunch of other changes, how you consume, what you support, pushing for better policies.
So it's a piece of the puzzle, but not the whole solution.
Right. Sustainability is holistic. It's about everything we do, our whole way of life.
He talks about it being part of a movement towards self-sufficiency, resilience, appealing to that sense of community. But could it also be creating an us versus them thing? Like you've got the Aqua Tower, you're prepared, everyone else is not.
Interesting point. Self-sufficiency, resilience, those are good goals. But gotta avoid creating divisions. True resilience is collaborative, about shared resources, solutions that work for everyone. Making it a competition, that's counterproductive.
He uses a lot of patriotic language, too. Take back control, be independent, very emotionally charged, plays into a certain mindset.
It does, doesn't it? Appeals to people who feel disillusioned, who value independence. But complex problems need us to work together, not retreat into our own little bubbles. Framing it as a battle against the system, that's not helpful.
He even claims the government is hiding the truth about water scarcity, which sounds like a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, that's dangerous territory. Playing on fear, mistrust of authority. It's good to be skeptical, ask questions. But there's a difference between healthy skepticism and believing stuff without evidence. Spreading misinformation just erodes trust, makes it harder to find solutions.
We've got to be careful what we believe, especially these days with so much information flying around.
Absolutely. Critical thinking is key. Question everything. Look for multiple perspectives. Evaluate the evidence before you form an opinion.
He claims the Aqua Tower can help your community make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
Another clever appeal to altruism.
It is. Linking the product to something bigger than yourself makes people feel good about buying it. But true altruism is about helping others without expecting anything in return. Buying a product, even if some of the money goes to a cause, that's not quite the same thing.
So it's about actions, not just purchases.
Right. And those actions, they should align with your values, what you truly care about, not just be driven by marketing.
He talks about creating a sustainable future for our kids, grandkids. Very powerful message, taps into our hopes and fears.
It does, and sustainability is crucial, absolutely. But it's more than just buying a product. It's a whole way of life, reducing our impact, making conscious choices, supporting the right policies. It's a long-term commitment.
So buying the Aqua Tower might make you feel good, but it's not the whole solution.
Not even close. It's a piece, maybe, but the real work is bigger than that. It's changing how we live, how we think, how we work together.
He also says it's inspired by nature, suggesting it's a harmonious natural solution.
Yeah.
But is that just more marketing spin?
Clever way to appeal to people who care about the environment. But just because something's inspired by nature doesn't mean it's eco-friendly. You got to look at the whole life cycle of the product, how it's made, used, disposed of.
So dig deeper than the marketing, look at the whole picture.
Exactly. What are the materials, the energy use, the waste generated? Those are the questions to ask.
He claims it can empower communities, build a more resilient world. Sounds good, but pretty vague.
It is vague, isn't it? How does it actually empower communities? What specific benefits does it provide? How does it make us more resilient? We need specifics, not just nice-sounding phrases.
So don't be fooled by buzzwords and general promises. Ask for details. Look for concrete evidence.
Exactly. If it's truly empowering, truly beneficial, there should be proof.
He even compares it to ancient water harvesting techniques, like it's a timeless, proven solution. But is that a valid comparison?
Smart way to invoke a sense of tradition, history, makes it seem more trustworthy. But modern tech, it's different. We can't just assume that old ways are always better.
So learning from the past is good, but we need to use modern knowledge too.
Absolutely. We need to combine that historical perspective with modern science, critical thinking, not just blindly follow what was done before.
He even talks about how it can create jobs, stimulate the economy, appealing to the practical side of things.
Smart move. Linking it to positive economic outcomes. Who doesn't want that? But job creation, economic growth, it should be sustainable, benefit everyone, not just a select few. We got to think long term.
Not just any jobs, but good jobs that contribute to a better future.
That's it. Short-term thinking got us into this mess. We need to prioritize long-term well-being for people and the planet.
He uses testimonials from people saying building an Aqua Tower brought their families closer, created a sense of community. Bit sentimental, don't you think?
It is, but it plays on that desire for connection. And doing something together as a family, yeah, that can be bonding. But strong families, communities, they need more than that. It's communication, support, shared goals.
So building the Aqua Tower might be a fun project, but it's not going to magically fix your family issues.
Right. Real connection takes effort, empathy, commitment. It's about the relationships, not the object.
He even talks about reconnecting with the ancient wisdom of water, like it's some kind of spiritual path.
Fascinating, isn't it? Water has deep spiritual significance in many cultures. It's life-giving, purifying. So yeah, I get why people find meaning in connecting to that. But true spiritual growth, that's about inner work, not just buying a product.
So be wary of marketing that tries to sell you spirituality.
Exactly. If it's genuine, it'll come from within, not from something you buy.
He throws in some stuff about scientific breakthroughs, lots of jargon, diagrams,
Yeah.
trying to make it seem super sophisticated.
Classic tactic, using technical language to impress people. But complex words don't equal scientific validity. You gotta look for the evidence, the proof, get opinions from independent experts.
So don't be blinded by sciencey talk. Look for the substance behind it.
Right. Is there actual research backing this up? Has it been tested and verified? Those are the questions to ask.
He says it's protected by patents, built with cutting-edge technology, trying to make it sound like a superior product.
Patents and fancy tech, they don't automatically mean a product is good. Patents are granted for all sorts of things. Some are groundbreaking, some are minor tweaks. And cutting edge is a marketing buzzword. What matters is, does it work? Is it reliable, safe, sustainable?
So focus on what it actually does, not how it sounds.
Exactly. Don't get distracted by the marketing fluff. Look at the substance, the evidence.
He offers a limiting time discount, trying to create that sense of urgency like you got to buy now or miss out.
Classic sales tactic. But water security, that's a serious decision. Don't be pressured into buying something just because it's on sale. Take your time, research, make sure it's right for you.
Don't let those limited time offers cloud your judgment.
Right. It's about being in control of your decisions, not being manipulated by marketing tricks.
He throws in a free bonus, too. A guide to off-grid living water purification tablets, sweetening the deal.
Trying to add perceived value, make the offer irresistible. But be careful, those bonuses might be worth less than they seem. Look at the overall cost. Is it really a good deal?
So don't be swayed by free stuff if the main product isn't worth it.
Exactly. Focus on what you're actually paying for, what value it brings.
He also offers a money-back guarantee, trying to make people feel more secure about buying.
Guarantees can be good, shows the seller has confidence in their product. But read the fine print. Are there time limits? Conditions you have to meet to get a refund?
Always read the fine print, know what you're getting into.
Absolutely. Don't just assume it's a no-risk situation. Be informed, protect yourself.
He uses testimonials from people saying the Aqua Tower changed their lives, gave them freedom from water bills. Seems a bit over the top, doesn't it?
Very much so. Extreme language, emotional appeals, trying to bypass your critical thinking. Be aware of those tactics. Make decisions based on evidence, not just how it makes you feel.
So don't buy into products that promise to magically solve all your problems.
Exactly. Complex problems, they need nuanced solutions, not quick fixes. And real freedom comes from making informed choices, not from being swept up in hype.
He talks about using it to educate children, about water conservation, sustainability. Smart way to get parents on board.
It is. Makes it seem like more than just a product, like you're investing in your kids' future, teaching them good values. But there's so many ways to learn about these things, books, documentaries, activities. You don't need to buy a specific product.
So the Aqua Tower might spark their interest, but it's not the only way to teach them.
Right. Give them a variety of experiences, help them develop critical thinking skills, a love for nature. That's what matters.
He even mentions ancient prophecies about water scarcity. Pretty out there, don't you think?
Definitely raises an eyebrow. There have always been droughts, water shortages, that's true. But linking it to ancient prophecies, that can create unnecessary fear, a sense that it's unavoidable. We need to focus on science, data, real-world solutions.
So no need to panic over prophecies. Stick to the facts. Find practical solutions.
That's the way to go. Empower yourself with knowledge. Use your critical thinking skills. That's how we'll navigate these challenges.
He talks about using it to water your garden, grow your own food. Another appeal to self-sufficiency.
Clever tactic. But how much water does your garden actually need? It depends on the plants, the climate, your irrigation system. Make sure you've got enough. Don't just assume the Aqua Tower can handle it all.
So gardening takes planning, research, not just a water source.
Exactly. Soil, sunlight, the right plants for your area, all of that matters too. Don't oversimplify it.
He even implies that owning an Aqua Tower is a status symbol, like it makes you special.
That's marketing 101, associating your product with status, exclusivity, makes people feel like they're part of an in-group, elevates their social standing. But sustainability shouldn't be about status. It should be about everyone.
So don't buy into that. Make choices that are right for you, not because you want to impress someone.
Exactly. Authenticity over appearances,
Yeah.
always.
Okay, we've covered a lot. Drought concerns, the potential of this tech, the need for critical thinking. It's been a wild ride.
It has, hasn't it? No easy answers when it comes to water. But we can make a difference, both individually and as a society.
Before we wrap up, let's recap the key takeaways. What do you want our listeners to remember?
First, water scarcity is real. It's serious. But we're not doomed. There are solutions. We can act.
It's easy to get overwhelmed, but we've got to remember that we can do something.
We can. Second, atmospheric water generation. It's a real technology. It has potential. But be critical. Do your research. Not all devices are created equal. There's a lot of hype out there.
Don't believe everything you read, especially in a sales pitch.
Right. Look for independent verification, scientific evidence, clear explanations of how it works. Don't be swayed by emotions, vague promises, or testimonials that sound too good to be true.
Be informed, be empowered, make your own decisions.
And finally, take action. Conserve water, support sustainable policies, research alternative solutions, advocate for change in your community. We all have a role to play.
Love that. We can all make a difference.
We can. So listeners, what stuck with you? What are you going to think about? Maybe research more.
What are you going to do differently?
Here's a final thought. Given what we know about water, what steps can you take on your own and with others to ensure you have access to clean water now and in the future?
Big question worth thinking about. And don't forget, we have that link in the episode description with more info on everything we talked about. Check it out.
Keep learning, keep exploring, stay curious.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of water. Until next time, stay hydrated and stay engaged in building a better future.
Yeah, it's classic marketing, tying the product to, like, aspirational stuff. Makes people think owning it reflects their values, boosts their social status.
Like having an Aqua Tower means you're in this special club, the people who get it, who are prepared for the future.
Right, and that can be really persuasive. People want to feel like they belong, like they're making the right choices. But sustainability shouldn't be about exclusivity. It should be for everyone.
It's not a competition. It's about working together.
Exactly. It's about collective action, shared responsibility, finding solutions that benefit everyone, not just a select few.
So yeah, don't buy into the hype just because you want to fit in or impress people. Make choices that actually align with your values, your needs.
Be authentic, make informed decisions, and contribute to a better world in ways that feel right for you. That's much more powerful.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive. Drought, water scarcity, this Aqua Tower thing, critical thinking. It's been a whirlwind.
It has. Definitely a lot to think about. No easy answers when it comes to water, that's for sure. But there's a lot we can do, both individually and collectively, to create a more sustainable future.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up, let's do a quick recap for our listeners. What are the main takeaways, the things you really want them to remember?
First and foremost, water scarcity is a real problem, a growing problem. We can't ignore it. The data is clear, the potential consequences are serious, but it's not a hopeless situation. There are solutions, and we can make a difference.
That's important to remember. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, but knowing that we can do something, that's empowering.
It is. Second, atmospheric water generation. It's a legitimate technology. It has potential to help, especially in certain situations. But, and this is crucial, we have to be smart consumers of information.
Not all atmospheric water generators are created equal,
Right.
and there's a lot of hype out there.
Exactly. Don't just believe everything you read, especially in a sales pitch. Look for independent verifications, scientific evidence, detailed explanations of the technology, and be realistic about what it can and can't do.
So don't be swayed by emotions or vague promises. Look for the facts.
Right. And finally, take action. Do something. Conserve water in your daily life, support policies that promote sustainable water management, research alternative solutions, get involved in your community. We all have a role to play in creating a more water-secure future.
Love that call to action. So listeners, what resonated with you most in this deep dive? What are you going to take away from this? What are you going to think about? Maybe even research further.
Here's a final thought to ponder. Given what we know about water, the challenges, the solutions, what steps can you take, both individually and in collaboration with others, to ensure sustainable access to clean water for yourself, your community, and the generations to come?
That's a big question, and hopefully this deep dive has given you some food for thought. And as always, we have a link in the episode description with more information on all the topics we discussed. Be sure to check it out.
There's a wealth of knowledge out there, and we encourage you to keep learning and exploring.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of water scarcity and solutions. Until next time, stay curious, stay hydrated, and stay engaged in creating a more sustainable future for all of us.